Hello, everyone, and welcome to this session of LitFestX. It's an exciting session. We have the first global virtual book launch of Rachel Kelly's new book, Walking on Sunshine. A little bit about Rachel. Rachel Kelly was educated at Oxford University, and she had a long career at Vogue and went on to spend 10 years as a journalist at the Times in UK. She is the co-editor of a treasury of poems for Almost Every Possibility in 2012 and the creator of two poetry apps. Rachel also gives talks and runs workshops across the country on the therapeutic value of the arts. Her first book, Memoir, was called Black Rainbow and went on to become a Sunday Times bestseller in the UK. It was on the healing power of the written word and uh, it won the best first book prize at the Spears Book Awards. All the proceeds from the book to the author were donated to mental health charities. To be noted here is that Rachel is an ambassador for SANE SANE and the vice president of the United Response and campaigns to reduce the stigma surrounding mental illness. Her first book, which she wrote, Black Rainbow, was about her journey through depression, which she fought successfully. And now, today, we are launching her second book, which really is, in many ways, I could say, a sequel, because her first book was all about her time with dealing with depression, and now this is about how one can really be happy. Rachel, welcome to LitFestX, and it's such a pleasure to have you with us.
Oh, it's a pleasure to talk and an honor to be involved. Thank you very much.
So, Rachel, tell us a little about Walking on Sunshine, the book we are launching today, and how did you take the leap from your first book, which was talking about depression, then on to sort of the brighter side of it?
Yes. Well, really what happened was that after the success of Black Rainbow, which was published 18 months ago, I was given a lot of opportunities to talk to people because depression is such a problem in the UK and around the world, and I think in India as well. And a lot of people said to me, well, you seem fine now, you seem recovered. And I said, you're right. I said, I feel, Winston Churchill, famously, he described depression as like a black dog. And I feel that like I have my black dog on a tight leash. I manage now. And people said to me, so how do you manage? So I thought I would start to keep a diary of my year, spring, summer, autumn, winter. And every week I would write down what helped me through that day or that week, whatever the issue was, all the strategies and techniques that keep me sane and steady and well. And I would share that because when I work with my charities, I run workshops for a lot of different organizations, for law firms, but for mental health charities, we all shared as well strategies to stay steady and well. So I put together my own experience, but also my experience from working with others of really good, practical, doable steps. So the subtitle of the book is 52 Small Steps to Happiness. And each one is something you can do that hopefully will help you cultivate a really good, mental health. I'm moving on now, not so much mental illness, but how can we positively cultivate mental health? So this is what I wanted to share.
You mentioned that today depression is one of the world's leading diseases and illnesses, and you're obviously doing a lot of work in that area, and you support mental health charities. Tell us a little bit about what you're doing there.
Yes, well, I'm very interested in the fact that stigma is alive and well, and that people are still very ashamed of the idea that they could suffer from a mental illness. And I think the area I'm particularly interested in, there's some very high-profile characters who have come out in the arts world, people like, Stephen Fry, Ruby Wax, famous people in the arts world who've talked about their depression, and also people who are obviously deprived, maybe unemployed or facing very difficult circumstances. Again, I think there's a sort of expectation that they could have depression. And just like people in the arts world, I mean, you know, maybe crazy creative, they could have depression. But I'm very interested in what you might call the hardworking accountants, bankers, lawyers, journalists, doctors, professionals. And my experience is that depression is very alive and well in these kinds of workplaces. And the stigma is very, very strong. And I've been very privileged as an ambassador for SANE and a vice president of United Response to have the opportunity to talk to people in these firms. And, you know, they're finding life very challenging, and they're often very stressed, very anxious, 24-hour communications, a lot of reasons that their mental health is suffering. And I felt, because this is the world that I knew, I was a reporter in the newsroom at the Times. You know, my husband worked for Goldman Sachs and now works for Credit Suisse. You know, we understand this world of very hardworking people. And I was interested in depression in this world. And because of my work with charities and running workshops, this is where I feel the stigma is still a huge problem. So if you go into a room of lawyers and you ask them, you know, in London, Paris, New York, Delhi, and you say in that room, you know, have you suffered, anybody in your family, from mental illness? Pretty much every hand goes up. And then you say, have you been able to talk about your mental illness or your strategies for staying well? And no hands go up. People don't want to talk about this subject. And that's why I feel I have been blessed with this opportunity to share, as I say, both my own experience with this illness, but also very positively, some things you can do to look after your mental health. So I think this is why I feel so lucky, because my work with my charities has just given me this opportunity to talk very widely to lots of different people about their experience, and to, as I say, to run these workshops. And my workshops are all about cultivating good mental health, because I think what's exciting and what we know now is that you can take responsibility for your mental health, and there are things you can do to look after yourself. You know, we all know about going to the gym, but I'm suggesting that we can look after our minds as well, and there are things we can do, and that's what I wanted to share with these small steps.
Very interestingly, you know, Rachel, you have you know, given 52 tips and tools, and I think
Yes.
those are meant sort of one for each week. Am I correct?
Yes. That's exactly right. So, as it were, you know, if you had a challenge in your week, you know, say you had a setback, a trigger that might normally set you spinning or not feeling so great, then I suggest an idea of something that you might do to sort of calm down, because my own theory about happiness is it's not something you can go out and say, I'm going to be happy today. You know, happiness is a byproduct of other things. So I don't think you can get to happiness directly, but I think by adopting strategies to stay calm, because in my view, calm and being steady is the absolute essential before we can get to happiness. You know, if we're anxious, worried, depressed, we can't feel happy. So I work at it this way around. My ideas are, let's get you calm, settled, steady, and then happiness will come, often by doing something and indirectly, and then you can feel that lovely feeling every now and again that you too are walking on sunshine.
That is just so fantastic, Rachel. At this point in time, you know, do you want to now unveil the book and sort of officially launch it virtually?
Yeah, I mean, this is a very exciting moment. You know, this is like my baby, and I'm getting goosebumps, and my hair on my arm is going up a bit, because, you know, I am doing this, you know, with a mission. You know, I'm really there to try and share, and I feel so lucky and privileged. I've been given this opportunity. So I'll show you the cover. I hope you can see if I hold it up.
Yes.
That's what it looks like. I was very privileged to work with a very distinguished cartoonist, Jonathan Pugh, who is the cartoonist on the Mail. The Daily Mail. He was a colleague of mine at the Times and a friend. And I told him about my dream and my vision and how I wanted to share, you know, my guide to a less complicated life. And he came and said, I really like what you're doing. I'd love to illustrate your work. So he did this lovely image of this little cheerful dog and this nice cover. And So the book is divided into 52 weeks, and then each section, about 3/4 of them, have some wonderful images that Jonathan has done. So I'll just show you if I open up now. Here we have, find one that you might enjoy. I think this would be a typical page. It's about the solace we can find in companionship in the animal world. I think often we feel, we become separated from nature. We could become separated from the animal kingdom. We know that having a dog, I have a dog called Sammy, can lower our blood pressure, make us feel more connected. One of the problems we have is isolation, and having a pet can be a very good way of connecting with other people. And in my own case, our dog is a lovely golden browny color, and I have a photo of him on my iPhone. So when I go to the hairdresser, when I need to be reminded for my hair, I say, look, this is the right color. So my dog means a lot to me in many ways. And this is typical. You see here the illustration that Jonathan has done, which is, I think, very characteristic of the book. It's that it's light touch. It's a gentle thing. I don't believe in wholesale, very dramatic 100% change. I don't think that's how we operate. I think if you ask someone to completely change everything, in fact, we know it goes into the amygdala, with the fear center of the brain, and they get in a panic. But if you suggest something small, like even if you don't have a pet, maybe you borrow a pet or you connect with animals in some way, that might make a little bit of a difference to your mental well-being. And I love the way that Jonathan just has this lovely way of suggesting that in a very light and gentle way. And because I think gentleness is a very, very important. Gentleness to yourself, self-compassion to yourself, and self-compassion to others. And so that's why all the things I suggest are very gentle, and hopefully no side effects, and things that on the whole are free and you can do easily.
Sorry. So Rachel, at the outset, congratulations on this book.
Oh, thank you.
Clearly you've set a new benchmark, for someone who is fought depression, come out of it, and has chronicled the good things about that journey, and how that led to yourself discovering your inner self, and also now giving tips to the world on how they can fight depression, accept it, talk about it.
Yes.
I love the illustration on the cover, and clearly even the one inside. And
yeah.
Just the first tip you mentioned, Rachel, is just fantastic. We've always been told that dog is the man's best friend, and it's good to have a pet, right?
Yeah.
But just a few minutes ago, the perspective you gave when you said, we have all gone far away from nature, and having a pet means you're closer to the animal world, to the animal kingdom, and by definition closer to nature. That's a brilliant way of putting it.
Oh, well, thank you. I mean, I do really believe it. And when I was writing this book, it was a lovely way to write it as a diary of my year, because it meant that everything I wrote really, really was what was happening in my life, and really were the things that made a difference. They really do mean something to me. And I think that, often we think we become very lonely in a way. And I think, as I say, connecting with nature, connecting with the animal kingdom, also not imagining that we have all the answers. I think sometimes that puts a great pressure on us. We're a world and a society that thinks that, we can sort everything. Well, sometimes there is a higher power, sort of spirituality. I think this as well, sometimes we can learn a lot from children. Again, we think we're adults, we're so high functioning and we know all the answers. Well, you only have to look at the joy and the way that children can be in the moment. They're not worrying about the future. They're not regretting the past. This is a very characteristic thinking of depression, is not to enjoy the now. And, we have a lot to learn from the wisdom of things that we might think are stupider than us. As I say, pets, children, they have a lot to teach us. And a lot of the book is about trying to be more in the moment and to give up on that kind of ruminative, worrying thinking that is very characteristic of depression, not enjoying the little things, not enjoying the moment. And I use a lot of breathing techniques, and I share them in the book. Because I think, you can't breathe in the future. You can't breathe in the past. You can only breathe now. And breathing is a wonderful way to connect again with your body. So body and mind are so linked. And so a lot of my tips is a real mixture, but a lot of them, again, are about connecting with our physicality, and not just living in our heads and not just thinking that we alone have the answers.
Very interestingly, Rachel, you mentioned that a lot of your tips are about connecting back with our physicality. So have you
Yes.
also delved into some of the aspects in terms of fitness or in terms of exercise, so on and so forth?
Absolutely. So, I mean, we all know exercise is important, and we all know that it gives a boost to your endorphins. And I think that is very well known. I think what I had to learn is that you need to break a sweat. This is what I have learned from talking to doctors, psychiatrists, is that to shake up your mind, to truly give your mind a break. You can change your brain chemistry, but you do have to do very intensive exercise, mixed in. It's all very good. I bicycle around in a nice, gentle way. That's good too. It's good to be outside. But actually, with exercise, I've learned it needs to be very intense. So my exercise of choice is dancing, because it's very focused. You have to only focus on the steps and the concentration. You break a sweat and you're in another place and your mind cannot worry. So you give your mind a rest. And I think that what is interesting as a little tip for people is sometimes if they're struggling with exercise, which is something I struggled with, is to remember what you loved as a child. Go back to your childhood. Again, there's wisdom in childhood. And I remembered when I was a little girl, I loved dancing. It just made me so happy. And it's typical of what I was saying. Doing the dancing makes me happy, but I can't get a happiness directly. But if I dance and I lose myself and I have that physicality and I'm reconnected with my body and I give my brain a break, you know what? It's a step to happiness, and I feel like I'm walking on sunshine. So that's what I'd say about exercise is, find the thing that really, links you fully with your body and just lets you just give your mind a break.
Rachel, your 52 tips and tools, like you mentioned, there's one for each week. Is this in some way a program or a routine that people who are fighting depression can follow?
Yes. Well, what I'm very excited by is I've had feedback from doctors and therapists who have seen advanced copies. And one of the things they've said is this book, it's misleading because it is small, but they said it takes time. You need to read each page slowly. There's actually a lot in each idea, and to take it on board. So the way we structured the book is we've given special space at the back with notes. So people can have their own journey through the year and they can record what works for them and which attitudes and approaches and tips really make a difference. Because what I would say is that everybody makes their own toolbox. Everybody needs to have their own toolbox. They need a very broad and holistic approach to their mental health. So if you look at a quick history of the treatments to mental health, we all got very excited in the 80s about antidepressants. Prozac was the answer. Now we realize there's a lot of problems with antidepressants, side effects, long-term problems, don't work for everybody, though they are lifesavers for others. Then we had a big excitement around therapy. Again, with the talking therapies, particularly cognitive behavioral therapy, people thought that's the magic bullet. Now people are very excited around mindfulness. And again, it has some very good aspects. And all these approaches, the mindfulness and some of ideas of therapy are in the book. But what I would say is that I feel now the consensus, and I've talked to psychiatrists and people in this world, neuroscientists, and the view is that people need a very individualized approach. Mental health is subtle and nuanced. Everybody has their own challenges, their own stresses, their own background, their childhood. And they need a very broad range of strategies that look at their body, but strategies that look at their mind. So this is what I have tried to help people with, is that I have shared 52, and I'm already going to be working on my next book, which will be 52 more, because I'm bursting with ideas and I want to share more ideas. But my dream is that what people will think, you know what? Yeah, this one for February, it really works for me. March, no, it doesn't speak to me. And that's okay. You know, everybody works out what works for them. And so I would like everyone to have a very individualized, bespoke approach to a whole range of strategies that helps them to stay strong, to stay well, to stay calm, and to walk on sunshine.
That's so fantastic, Rachel. We are getting some questions for you on Twitter. I'm going to show it to you on your screen, and then you can respond.
Okay, sure. How exciting.
So this is the first question. It says, don't you think sharing news of bad mental health is considered wrong? The culture doesn't allow. What do you say?
I completely agree. And I'm really glad that this lady has made that point. I think we have a real problem talking about mental illness. You know, this is my experience. So when I wrote my account of mental illness, you know, everybody said to me, oh, you're so brave. And, you know, that troubled me, because why am I so brave? That implies I have something to be ashamed of. You know, if someone said they had diabetes or cancer, people wouldn't say, you know, you're so brave to talk about it, because people would be sympathetic. And what I'm trying to say is that mental illness is exactly that. It is an illness. Something goes wrong with your brain, and we have nothing to be ashamed about. And therefore, I think you're so right, that lady on Twitter, thank you for sharing your thoughts. It is a problem, and that's why I'm going out there talking about it. And I'm so excited. I am actually coming to India in January to the Jaipur Literary Festival. And I hope maybe you could come and we could talk some more, because, you know, we all need to raise awareness. And your question is absolutely on message.
Right. The next question here I'm taking is, it says, sorry, can you see the question on your screen right now?
I can't see that one. I saw the first one.
Okay, here it is.
Oh, yes, I've got that one.
So it says, doesn't happiness come from knowing your role and relieving others of some form of pain and offering back to the world?
Well, again, and I love that picture on your Twitter handle there of a dog. And I too love dogs. What I would say is absolutely. So I think in the book, I describe my own work as a volunteer at my local prison. We know the research is that helping others is exceptionally good for your own mental health. So the famous case was an experiment in the 1970s in an old people's home, and they gave half the people a pot plant to look after, and the other half nothing to look after. And on every outcome, well-being, you know, recovery from operations, all sorts of other factors, the people that looked after something else and thought of somebody else and tried to help someone else did better than the ones that didn't have the pot plant. So you're absolutely right. And I'd say, people say to me, what has been the single thing that has most helped your mental health? And it would definitely be working as a volunteer in prisons, running my workshops for my mental health charities, giving my proceeds to mental health charities, and trying to support other people. So I think that would be a huge contributor to all our mental health, exactly as you say. So thank you for sharing that.
Rachel, we probably got time for maybe just one more question before we wrap up. So
okay.
Take this one. And it says, do you see your role as that of a messenger?
Well, thank you for that, Deepak. I love that image. I really feel that. I feel like a lot of this stuff is coming through me. I just feel like I'm the vehicle that, for whatever reason, I am a practicing Christian, and I do feel that somehow this has just come through me. I'm just the vehicle to share this. And, you know, this book in particular, it kind of wrote itself. It was just sharing, you know, my experience, but it's, you know, as I say, it's almost like it exists separate to me. I am just the sort of messenger, as you say. That's a lovely image. I'd like to say I feel very honored and blessed to have been given this ability. There's a wonderful line in the Bible. It says, he who going through the vale of Baca, which is the desert, make of it a well. And I feel I've been given this chance to make a well of something that happened that seemed to be of no point at all. But it was sent to me for a reason, and it has changed my life. And I do feel very grateful to be that messenger.
So, Rachel, some brilliant insights and some very candid words from you.
Yeah.
Clearly, it is not easy for one to talk about one's illness, whether mental or physical. And you've not only spoken about it, but through your work with charities, through the books you've written, and your latest book, you've actually turned that illness into a strength with which you are going out and helping people across the world. And more power to you, more power to your pen.
Oh,
And
thank you.
and
Well, I'd just
sorry,
like
go
to
ahead.
end. I know we've got to wrap up, but there's a lovely line I'd like to share with everybody, which comes from Corinthians. And it says, "My strength is made perfect in weakness." So I say to anybody listening out there, if you're feeling in weakness, if you're feeling powerless, if you're feeling desperate, or you're feeling anxious, your strength is made perfect in weakness. And I do feel blessed that my strength has been made not perfect, but better through the weakness. So courage.
Thank you so much. And I believe the book goes into sort of sale mode on Thursday.
Yes, it's
Next week of
available on
November.
it's being published on Thursday, which is very exciting. I'm a little bit nervous, but I'm following my own tips. And and it is available for pre-order on Amazon. Unfortunately, well, excitingly, the first print run has already sold out, but we're printing more, and it is available, and you can pre-order it on Amazon. And I'd love to hear from people on Twitter. I am on Twitter, and I am on Facebook, and I love to have this conversation. So please stay in touch, and I hope we stay in touch as well.
Absolutely. And once again, we are happy to have hosted the sort of global virtual launch of your book, Walking on Sunshine, and may it do really well and help many people.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rachel. Bye bye.
Bye. Thank you so much, and all blessings and good luck.